My name is Abraham Onkst, and this is my artist talk. Who am I and where am I from? My name is Abraham Onkst. I'm from the small town of Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania, and I am a visual artist and designer. I also really enjoy photography and videography. Aside from my creative pursuits, I really enjoy nature, swimming in the ocean, and playing basketball, just to name a few things. Art has always been a part of my life since a young age. My mom enjoys fashion, music, and interior design, and my dad has been in the band ever since I can remember. Although art and music were always around me as a kid, my parents never forced me to do art or told me I should do it, but it was always around as a source of subconscious inspiration. Whenever I was younger, there was turmoil in the household, so I began utilizing artwork as a means of expression and a way to process emotions. In 7th grade, I tried my first canvas painting, and I haven't stopped since. I had no formal training early on in my life, which I believe was an advantage to some extent, because it allowed me to create freely and openly without fear. When I started out, I didn't know many artists at all, so I was drawing all my inspiration from my experiences in mind. I never desired to imitate, and I created what I enjoyed. As I started to get a little older, I began watching YouTube videos in my free time of graffiti and abstract artists, and I believe this is where my initial love for vibrant colors came from. This is an artist I used to watch frequently, and his name is John Beckley. So as I was watching these other people on YouTube, I wanted to take a shot of my own YouTube videos. So here's a still image of me drawing from a YouTube video in 2015. My style really grew through experimentation, practice, and listening to my intuition. As I grew, so did my style. I was taking my life experiences and emotions and turning them into visuals. Here's the first painting I ever sold. I sold it to a kid at my junior high for $40 and a pair of Nike Elite socks. No joke. After this painting sale, the kid and I, his name's Caden Conaway, became really good friends, and we even ended up designing a line of clothing together, which would then debut at El Paso Fashion Week in El Paso, Texas. Here's a photo of some of our looks on the runway, and here's a photo of us with some of the other designers at the event. Continuing on, here is a painting I made in 2014. This was me experimenting more with my medium of acrylic painting. Here are two more examples of me experimenting with line and color. And I then started to go into an even more line-heavy style with this series of paintings. I would take a spackle knife and use it to move paint around and make sharp lines. All of the formal themes of art are important to me. The most evident formal theme in my work, I would say, is line. I lean very abstract in most of my artwork, but through my education, I've done lots of other styles as well. I'm very interested in patterns and the process of making art. My work covers several conceptual themes. I'm very interested in language. I feel that verbal language is often not vast enough to express the human experience, so I also express it through visual language. Spirituality is another theme in my work. I feel most connected to the world and myself when I'm creating. I desire to create images that are good for the soul and uplift. Each piece I create, I want to be its own engulfing world where the viewer is invited to experience any emotions and ideas. Expression and process are essential to me. As an extra layer of expression, I often use words, symbols, numbers, and motifs. I'm very interested in the act of art making. Last but not least, my artwork is about layers and layering. Life is incredibly nuanced, mysterious, and layered, so therefore my artwork mirrors that. Here are a few artists that inspired me today. Starting from the top left, Franz Klein. The middle, Lefty Out There. On the right is Hannah Yada. On the bottom left is Helen Frankenthaler. And the final artist is John Paul Foves. I'm also inspired by George Condo, Keith Haring and his visual language, and ancient Egypt, especially hieroglyphics. Here's a piece from my color theory class that I found successful. As I mentioned earlier, I never like to imitate other styles. Well, for this piece, I wanted to challenge myself and intentionally imitate the style of Picasso, which is Cubism. Here are two more images of my work to help you get a further idea of my style. Here's an example of my work where I am experimenting with brush size and seeing how that affects the composition. I'm also very inspired by music, which led me to paint this custom abstract guitar. Here are some of my handmade ceramics that I made here at Penn State Altoona, which I then painted with my abstract designs. And that led me into the higher level ceramics class where we made self-portraits out of clay, and I also incorporated my design pattern into that as well. I like to incorporate my designs into various items such as champagne bottles and other decor. And here are a few more images of my canvas paintings. This one is titled Change, and this one is titled Speak What You Seek. And that brings us to the present day and my current upcoming exhibition titled Static, which is opening on April 6, 2023, and will be on view until April 16, 2023. In this work, I will be taking a much more themed and symbolic approach to my artwork. This artwork shares my personal feelings on media, social media, and how overconsumption of media can affect identity. This work has a dystopian aura with a dash of dark humor. I chose to title the show Static to speak to the multitude of opposing viewpoints, confusion, and noise that the media creates. The first two pieces are called Media Murders. To create these pieces, I painted two original canvas paintings, one red and one blue. I then went to a photographer and had my body photographed as if I were dead. I took the photo of myself into Illustrator and cut out the background, traced my body, and deleted the inside. I then filled each body with one of the colored backgrounds and made the background a solid black as if it were a void. After I made these pieces, I wanted a piece to tie the two together and bring a sort of resolve. So I created this text-based art. Both sides are lies, somewhere in between, truth resides. I chose to go with the color purple as the text color to represent the blending of the two colors of the political parties in America, red and blue. I added a glitch effect to speak to the idea of media. I continued on with my concept by making a newspaper headline. I capitalized the lies and beliefs to illustrate that it can be challenging to know what the truth of situations is, especially in a world so polarized. I then made another newspaper headline piece that reads, "Ridiculed until proven genius," to illustrate how often the media will try and slander or defame people that are ahead of their time. The newspaper texture in the background of this piece is taken from an article speaking about the Wright brothers, mocking them and saying how planes will never be used in war. I then wanted to bring a more personal toned piece into the show, which led me to this series of 8 prints I've titled Signal Through the Noise. These pieces are directly taken from my iPhone's camera roll, dating all the way back to 2014 when I first got an iPod and started consuming content on the internet. For this piece, I zoomed the whole way out on my iPhone's camera roll and screenshotted the whole camera roll, 1 year at a time. I then took these into Illustrator and made them into vector images. I then printed them out on super high quality paper here on campus. After they were printed, I carefully selected the few most important moments from each year and cut them out with an X-Acto knife. These small squares represent some of the most important moments through all the noise. This piece encapsulates moments of my whole life from 2014 all the way to 2022. It speaks to the sheer volume of information and moments I've accumulated through my life since I've gotten on the internet. And out of all those moments, what is most important? When you step back, the piece appears glitch-like, speaking back to the idea of media. Here's an image of my installation piece titled Surveillance. It is 2 vintage Pelco security cameras with modified LED lights that will be lit up and blinking during the exhibition. Here are 2 more sculptures titled Distractions. These feature 2 metal trash cans professionally painted with car paint and 2 Sears box TVs from the 1970s. During the exhibition, these will be plugged in and producing static. Unfortunately, due to components of this sculpture being in various locations and storage, I do not have the finalized photo of it yet, but I will try and explain it as best as I can. This is my final sculpture titled Rabbit Hole. This work features a vortex-shaped rug with an iPhone in the center as if it's being sucked into the vortex. On top of the vortex will be a clear acrylic box trapping the phone, and on top of the box will be the weight of 2 cinder blocks. After undergrad, I will continue to explore and expand my artwork and have more shows, residencies, and experiences. I want to also become more involved with philanthropy and offer advice to those if I can. I want to travel as much as possible and enjoy life. I'm also interested in diving into more creative businesses and luxury men's clothing. Here's one of the creative businesses that I'm interested in continuing to pursue. This was a collaboration between Del Toro and I. Del Toro is an Italian menswear brand, and we created custom designed pocket squares. Thank you for listening. If you would like to see more of my work, you can find me on Instagram at abe_onkst or on my website www.onkstart.com.